On today's episode, we'll be speaking with Dr. Andre West, Director of the Zeiss Textiles Extension for Economic Development at the Wilson College of Textiles. We'll learn about his path into the industry and his achievements with the Wilson College of Textiles and the Flex Factory, which we will be able to tour at the upcoming Smart Fabric Summit. And now, let's talk textiles. Welcome, everyone, to Talking Textiles. I'm Haskell Beckham, member of the Emerging Technologies Division Advisory Board and Vice President of Innovation at Columbia Sportswear. I'm your host for today's discussion. Thank you to everyone listening in on today's episode. The goal of this podcast is to get to know the wide variety of positions and markets that make the advanced textiles world turn. We will be talking to professionals in different roles throughout this series to help inspire the next generation of textile professionals and anyone interested in learning about others' journeys in the world of textiles. ATA offers advanced textiles content throughout the year, including the upcoming Smart Fabric Summit, an event where government, industry, and academia meet, happening April the 11th and 12th, 2023 at North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. This 1.5-day event will feature a variety of education and networking, from engaging sessions on emerging technology and smart textiles to the interactive facility tours and student research showcase to the networking reception. Visit www.smartfabricsummit.com to learn more. Today, we will speak with Dr. Andre West. Welcome, Andre. Tell the listeners a little bit about the Flex Factory. What is it? Where did the idea for it come from?
Well, obviously, the name Flex Factory has a little connotation in itself. It's a flexible space for textile manufacturing items that are either textiles or textile components. And it's supposed to be a rapid prototyping space, so we can make small, either one-offs or small runs of innovation and sort of ideation. The prototyping space is, like I said, small production. But it also is looking at, can this be made in a factory later? And I think that's really the most important thing. So we're sort of imitating the product in its real manufacturing sense and building it there, and then saying, okay, this is the components, these are all the components you need, this is how long it's going to take, this is what it's going to cost in the real world, build it out so someone has a real sort of scalable project that can be moved forward. So that's sort of what it is. How it came about to begin with is obviously NC State, Wilson College of Textiles is a global leader of textile education, located in the Triangle here in North Carolina, and acts as a technological hub for North Carolina and a lot of the industry that is still in North Carolina. And we're not far from all the different industries that are around. So we have connections with the industry, and the industry has been coming to us for a long time asking us, can we do this? Can we do that? And we obviously have a very good textile background, but having that last step is what we're trying to build here. This Flex Factory sort of survives on sort of research and incubation space. We have obviously a very well-groomed faculty and alumni and staff that really know about manufacturing at all different levels, and working with startups and companies and textile businesses, whether they're very small or very big. That's how it sort of started, having a research space where we could take an idea all the way through to the end. So that's pretty much where it started.
And in fact, I'm glad you brought up that last point, because when I was reading about this, what a little bit I can find right now, it occurred to me that NC State College of Textiles has always been a fountainhead for education and certainly, but also for concept development for industry professionals. What makes the Flex Factory different? Are you talking about putting together a bunch of prototype machinery for creating prototypes, or is this production scale machinery? And is there a difference there?
There is a slight difference. Okay, so there is a slight difference. Obviously, you want the minimum, you want the machinery that is out there in industry, but you also want the smallest footprint of that industry, because you have to have that in a one space area. Right. So I'll give you an example. We have a spinning unit that is from Italy, and we're able to process about 2 pounds of material through that. So going from actually, we could actually chop up a garment. Say sustainability is a big thing right now. Chopping up a fabric and then chopping up a garment back into fiber and then reprocessing that fiber into a yarn and then spinning the yarn and then obviously knitting it or weaving it. So that's a unit that we have in this place, and so that's an example of a very small unit. The footprint is tiny. It's a 6 spindle unit, but being able to process that is ideal, because normally if we do that in a manufacturing sense, just in our place alone, which we have our own spinning facility, you're looking at 40, 50 pounds. So to be able to do development and that type of thing is very difficult. A big factory has to stop completely because they don't even have prototyping machines and have to put that aside and using hundreds of or thousands of pounds of material to get to the back end of this. So the idea on the whole is to keep that type of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. What's the current status of the Flex factory? Is it in place now? Is it operating now, or are you building it up?
You picked up a good day, because we've got a Lectra Gerber cutter, a Z1 cutter, which is a fantastic device that actually scans. It'll actually scan an image and then cut around that image. It's actually been placed in the factory, got delivered today. There is also the Mesdan system is already in place. We have some printing equipment. We have our full cohort of sewing equipment, including sonic sewing and hot tape devices. Some 3D printers in there already. We're still waiting for some equipment, but it's been built out. We took an old machine shop that we had good power and everything else, and refitting it. Place is getting painted next week, so it's full on with a whole bunch of people working on this project. So it's great. It's great to see it. But we have a sort of 2 phases to this. So this will be phase 1, getting it up and running, working on products so we can sort of promote it and tell people about it. And then the next stage is to obviously make it into a really fully functional designed lab space. And we have another space across the hallway that we're going to build into this more sort of slick operation where we can do research and development using NDAs and whatever, sort of when we work with like the Department of Defense, and have secluded sort of spaces that we can work with individual companies. So that's to come in the future.
Okay, yeah, and I do have some questions about that in a second. What does access look like? Like, let's say, for example, if I'm working for a company within driving distance of NC State or maybe further afield, and I wanted to, I have an idea that I'd like to try out. I'd like to access some of the equipment that's in the Flex factory. How do I get access? Is it involved process? Is it easy process? And then after this, I'd have a follow-up question.
Yeah, I mean, right now we do very similar things with our other. Obviously, we have other spaces like our weaving labs and our knitting labs, and they are big spaces, and we have incoming products that go through those labs. So this will work exactly the same as that. We'd have an incoming form on our website, and it will show, and you just fill in the form according to what we do. We have a meeting about this once a week with our whole team. The whole team gets together and decides what we can do, and then we move that project forward, knowing the time. Now, the nice thing about this Flex Factory is that you could actually come and work on the project. It's not like, okay, we're doing the project for you, come back when it's ready. That's not that way. So we're going to have a place in where you can actually get trained on the equipment. So if you want to be a part of printing or cutting, you can take a course within that realm that will be online to start with, to get you the basic fundamentals, and then you'll have to do some on-ground training just to be able to use that equipment. You can come in and use it. Now, this applies to student, staff, faculty from our end, but also applies to startups, mid-sized companies, and international companies. So that's the idea. And a lot of this we have in place already, because we have labs that do this work where you can go in and get the training. So we really want it to be an open space that we're not just, you give us the idea and we take it from there. It's more like an interactive space.
That sounds good. What if I don't want to run the equipment and I just
okay, yes.
Do you
yes.
For example, obviously there's going to be a learning curve if I need to learn the equipment in order to try out a new idea. Will it be fully staffed? Do you have operators, technicians that will run things for for someone if they wanted to come in and take advantage of the equipment you have in the Flex Factory.
Yeah, one of the beauties of NC State is our technicians from all our departments have years and years of experience of industry, and we've put a specific technician in this department already. So they're working on obviously the installation of equipment, which is the most important thing. But we are actually doing projects already. We've got about 4 or 5 projects we're working on at this point in time. So it will be fully staffed. And then we will have some sample sewers, because there's not that many people that want to sew their own garments or own products. So having a really qualified sample pattern maker and sample sewer in the factory is really, really important.
Yes, totally agree. I'm going to go back to something about the access too, and something that you touched on a little bit when you mentioned an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, getting in place. What about intellectual property ownership in general? For example, if one simply needs to access the equipment to try some stuff out, will NC State or the Wilson College forego any claims to intellectual property?
Yes. There's 2 ways of working. So if we're strictly doing a product manufacturing, so that we're not sort of engaging the customer in sort of invention of any type, no, that can run through the thing. So if you have a product, here's my design, I want to print this, I want to cut this way, and I want to sew it this way, and I sort of know what to do. Yes, that's what we call a fabrication agreement that we do day in and day out. But we also work with companies on and institutions with intellectual property. And the school has, right across the street from us, we have our intellectual property department, so we can facilitate that move. So say products that I have worked on originally, they go through the process of doing disclosure, provisional patents and patents. And obviously the university has to get involved in that process, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, because it secures both parties, and you can have a percentage of how much was brought in and how much work was done from each party, and the rates that NC State charge for that are very, very low at the beginning, because we realize that patents take 20 years to sort of fully pan out, and we on the front end it's not really a high percentage. It sort of goes up. Right. So if that product lasts 20 years, there's going to be a decent amount of money that comes back to NC State. But at the beginning, it's very little, because if the products are successful, then obviously no one minds paying that amount. But that's the sort of way it works. And that, again, that's all in place within the university.
That sounds good and reasonable. You don't want to stifle innovation for something that you're not even sure if it's going to work in the first place. You're just trying to get something prepared to see if it'll work or not. I like that.
Yeah, but a lot of people do want their security. They want to know that it's secure, and they're coming in with an idea, and that's part of what we do, is writing the NDA and doing the IP, so they can feel secure that they're we have a lot of people tour the facility every day, right? So but we never talk about the work. We may talk about the work we're doing, but we never talk about who it's for, how it's what the final products are. So that's sort of secure.
What about funding for the facilities? This is a pay-as-you-go kind of.
Yeah, so we're looking. We're an institution like everybody else. A public institution where the university is going to give us. Obviously, there's money needed to start up the place, and that's a really good question. Thank you for asking. So the universities but we're looking for whatever funding we can get from investors, to support the idea of the Flex Factory in the startup mode. So that's one concept, and we are reaching out to companies and for that, and being named sponsors and that type of thing I think is really good, because people see the value of what we're doing. But there will be rates. So those rates will change depending on who the company is. So if we will have a student rate, we'll have a startup rate, and we'll have a sort of international brand rate. I think that's the way it's going to work. But again, it's we're a public institution, so we really don't want to lose any money, but we don't want to we don't have to make a lot of profit from this. This is more of a service driven idea that we're putting together, not a we're making money out of it. Really, we're I'm the director of the Zeiss Textile Extension, which is our role is to service the industry, is to be, obviously, from COVID and everything else, we're seeing a genuine need, we all know that manufacturing is not going to come back at 100%, but there's avenues of getting product built, and especially with robotics and other things like now, there's ways of doing that where you can actually manufacture with very low labor and still manufacture product competitively in the world.
Yes. Now I have a little bit of a crazy question, but I was just thinking that, if I work for a company and I wanted to take advantage of equipment access at the Flex factory, a lot of times that's not just going to be a day, right? I may want to come in for a week or two. And do you have plans to have like dormitory style accommodations for people coming in to use the Flex factory, or?
We actually, well, obviously, we do have dormitories here because but that's usually only open in the summer when the students aren't here. So it's obviously possible to do because we have people come in from. But we actually have a hotel down the street, so we have a NC State has its own hotel that we can put people up. But and we do that type of thing on occasion where someone comes and works hand in hand. Usually with a customer right now that was working in other labs, they come in, they sort of make acquaintance, they see what's going on, and then come back in a week or so and see what happens. So it depends, but yeah, the really good idea. I haven't thought of that, so you added something to my thing to see if we can get dormitory access in the summer to work on projects. Yeah, so
I don't know if it was a good idea or not, but thank you for saying that. But so how do you see the Flex factory evolving in the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years?
Obviously, this is a really interesting question. So I have one word to tell you, which is sustainability, right? Sustainability. I'll give you an example. We had a incoming student interviews a couple of weeks ago, and there was about 7. These are scholarship interviews, and I think we had about 70 students come in, and the 10 that I interviewed that day, every single one of them, the word on their lips was, how are we going to be sustainable? And we know this, anybody in this industry know this is a big challenge. Okay. So right. I see the Flex factory as part of that, and what we can do to sort of work on those problems. I mean, textiles is one of the biggest polluters but there's opportunities to make things more sustainable, whether they're single garments or out of fiber that's more, that's using waste fiber or recyclable fiber. So I think that to me is the evolving aspect. It's going to take a while. I mean, it's going to take us 3 years, I think, to build out this space exactly like it want it. And that's why we have this phase 1 of building it into this. But again, I want to tell you that the reason it's called a Flex factory is things are going to change. The roboticization of equipment is happening as we speak. And you're seeing that with AI and everything else. So I see those types of things being, what's happening in the visual world with the CAD, with all the CAD software and everything. I think that's going to really help move this. So again, that's why we called it the Flex factory. So if these changes, it's not going to be a static space. In fact, most of the equipment, we're making sure it's movable. So if we have to bring something out and bring something in, that's possible to do without having to sort of redesign the space every time we want to do that.
Gotcha. This is a university campus, and we've talked mostly about sort of industry access up to now, but will students engage with the Flex factory, use the Flex factory? How and what would that look like, and how will that prepare them for their careers?
Yes, interesting. I mean, they are right now. I mean, that's our. We have students that are working, having their own websites and doing their own work. And I just want to sort of backtrack. If you look at a student when they come in as a freshman and you say, if you ask that student what they want to be, and they say, oh, I want to be a fashion designer when I own my own store, and I want to do that. I want to be successful on my own and be an entrepreneur. And we teach them the reality. And like 4 years later, we've taught them all this reality about how industry is and how it works and how technical and all the equipment you need. And then they graduate and they realize, okay, well, now it takes a lot of money to put all that equipment together. And really, this Flex factory is to go back and say, you can now be an entrepreneur. This is the first step that you can, if you need this equipment, it's available. You can come and rent it for a short period of time and build your collection, and then go out and sell your collection. And when it's sold, then start manufacturing. And by the way, here's the equipment that we think you should buy to set up your own place. So I think that, that entrepreneurship's always been the greatest asset of America. Okay. And we need to funnel that energy back into where it should be. And I think the Flex Factory is one of the ways we could do that.
Outstanding. What is your background and how did you become involved with the Flex Factory? Is this your idea? Are you the primary point of contact for the Flex Factory?
Okay, my background is, I'm from England. I did a textile degree in England, and I actually I formed an entrepreneurial partnership right out of college. In fact, I didn't even go to my graduation. I had a collection to put together for London Fashion Week. So I put that to collection, sold it and was in stores. So, and then I became a trend forecaster, one of the first trend forecasters in London, and worked for the Design Council of Great Britain on different projects to sort of to work with industry. So I've sort of, my whole life has been involved around this sort of concept. So it really wasn't, I don't think it was my idea, but I think it's always something that's been close to my heart to want to get going. And I've worked in industry here from very small companies to very large manufacturing. So I've seen it from all angles, and I was part of the shift. I sold my business when I saw being a trend forecaster, I saw everything moving offshore, and I sold my business at the perfect time when I saw that happening. But I realized there's a genuine love to make things, and that people want to do that, and they just need the opportunity to do that. So this is sort of where I'm at right now. But to say it's my own idea is not. I think there's a lot of people that need to be involved in a project like this and to move it forward. And because of my trend background, I can see that sort of trend happening.
Gotcha. Well, how can the Advanced Textiles Association and the Flex Factory work together?
I think the ATA has always been helpful to what we do. Number one, we do events. We have events here. We have the Smart Textiles Conference coming up. I think that's in April, I think it is. And we have the expo we have a booth at in November time. I think the best thing, just tell your members about us. If you have machine manufacturers that are willing to showcase their machines because they have a really good machine that really should be, so people should be seeing, we have a space for that machine. We can test that machine. We can put entrepreneurs on that equipment to see how it's working. I think that's a really good idea. Even just visit. We're an open door, an open campus. Come look at the space and say, how can I interact with you? Here's all the equipment. What are your needs? And tell us, and we'll find the expertise to hopefully move your product forward. So I think that's where the ATA and us, the Wilson College of Textiles, fit well together.
Sounds good. In addition to industry professionals working in the Flex Factory, there's another function for the space too, right? And I think you mentioned that earlier, and that is for machine manufacturers to demo new equipment or existing equipment. Is that correct? Can you maybe say something about that?
Yeah, I mean, we have one right now. It's a company called Twine. They make a printed sewing thread, so you can actually dial in your color, your Pantone color that you need to use sewing thread. So imagine the student right now that has to go, they make a brand new garment and they then have to run to a retail store to find that match, and that match is never the exact match. And then they have to buy a whole spool, and they maybe use maybe a quarter of it, and that all goes to waste. Now we can sort of dial in, okay, that's the fabric that you want. This is the cut. This is the amount of yardage you need to sew that garment, and then plug that into the machine. It prints out the thread. You take the thread to the machine. You start sewing your garment. I mean, that's the perfect example. Okay, does everybody have that same problem? It doesn't matter what company you are. Everybody. I worked in big companies that ran, and I did the same thing and ran to the store to get my thread because I never had the right color thread. So that's an idea of how sustainability works, how the process works, and how a piece of equipment gets showcased well in the Flex Factory. And again, we're looking for partnerships like that all the time to see what the latest developments are.
How do folks find out more information about the Flex Factory? I assume you have a website up and running.
We have our basic website, which is the Zeiss Textile Extension website right now. We are in a soft opening stage. That's why it's great to be on this call to be able to talk about it to you. We should have a page on that website in a couple of weeks to be able to promote it even more. But they can contact me. I'm very easy accessible through the Wilson College of Textiles. That's the easiest thing. And on the website, there's an incoming page when you can just say, this is my project, this is what I want to work on, and we can use that page right now if they want to know right this minute. But we're an open book for that. Yeah.
I guess the easiest way would be just to do a search on Wilson College of Textiles Flex Factory. And
just Google me.
Or Dr. Andre West. Thank you for joining us for this episode of ATA Talking Textiles, brought to you by the Emerging Technologies Division. ATA is a not-for-profit association representing the international specialty fabrics marketplace. Learn more about events, workshops, and webinars ATA hosts throughout the year at textiles.org/events. Again, we encourage you to attend the Smart Fabric Summit from April the 11th to the 12th, 2023 at NC State University, where you can tour the Flex Factory.